The world is catching fire, friends, and we've been warning about this for a long time. A lot of things are coming to a head, both internationally as well as domestically. We're going to be talking about a bunch of the major headlines that have been kind of coming across the wire over the last 24 hours. I know it was Christmas, but important things are happening around the world. Israel's conflict with Yemen has hit a new very tragic milestone. Major airstrikes happening across Yemen, hitting another one of their ports, as well as taking out their major international airport. Hundreds of targets hit across the country, including basically what they were doing to Hamas and Hezbollah happening now in Yemen. We have not only that, but we also have another cable incident across the Baltics, a Russian tanker apparently cutting not only communication lines, but also power lines on the ocean floor. We got the Chinese coming out with their new sixth generation fighter jet. We got a lot to talk about. We have an airliner that has been taken out by a Russian anti-aircraft defense systems. And we got some big things happening in the financial markets. Let's just put it that way. We're seeing some things that are very, very concerning with interest rates that will impact you, as well as the fact that we're seeing that the Federal Reserve is losing control of the markets. All right, friends, I know a lot to talk about. Important stuff, though. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and these are the things that the mainstream media is either not covering or not covering well. We want to get you guys the information without an agenda and without some sort of woke bent to it. All right, so first off, if you didn't see the video this morning, if you're involved with any kind of business, small business, if you run your own business, or if you are part of a small church, or if you're part of some kind of nonprofit, be aware of, you need to watch the video. I'm going to link it at the end of this video in case you didn't see it, but there is a reporting requirement that happens that's by next week. And churches that don't comply with this are going to be potentially fined very, very heavily. All right, let's move over to Yemen. The Houthis in Yemen, of course, have launched a whole bunch of rockets at Israel. And Israel has dealt with Hamas, which is a puppet for Iran. And then they dealt with the Houthis. Then they dealt with the Syrian government. And now their slate just has two things left on it. The Houthis of Yemen and Iran itself. It's like they're playing a video game and they're coming up to the big boss, which is Iran. And they've been dealing with the smaller threats along the way. And now they are dealing heavily with the Houthis in a way that they have not experienced ever before. Israel, as we've talked about before, is using AI technologies to identify targets and to prioritize them. Now, they are being supposedly reviewed by humans, but this has allowed them to very quickly find individuals particularly, and to assess potential collateral damage, and then to move forward to a strike package very quickly. In previous go-ins of the West Bank, as well as into the Gaza Strip, Israel had a hard time developing strike packages. It takes a lot of manpower, sifting through a lot of information, trying to find a person that needs to be eliminated, make sure that they're connected with the bad guys, and then just ascertain whether or not this is a legitimate strike. They were able to get like dozens of strike packages during some of the high operations previously, and now they're developing hundreds of strike packages per day. And so we've seen them do this in Gaza recently, and then we've seen them do this in southern Lebanon against the Hezbollah. Well, they've just turned all of those intelligence assets against the Houthis. They are using all sorts of data gathering capabilities from cell phones, radio signals, They're connecting people through social medias. They're finding who are soldiers, what position do they hold, who's responsible for different things, and how to degrade these organizations. It's frankly quite scary, the power of this. Even in Afghanistan and Iraq, the United States was still using human intelligence officers to develop strike packages. I don't think, and I could be wrong on that, but I don't think the United States has ever deployed any kind of resources and artificial intelligence like they have here. And so Israel is rapidly degrading the Houthis in Yemen. We've seen dozens of strikes leading up to this at mostly infrastructure locations, but now not only did we see the international airport heavily hit and also the port of Hodeidah, but we're not just seeing infrastructure attacks anymore. We're now seeing them target individuals and training camps, missile sites. They're using it's becoming evident that they're using that artificial intelligence there in their strikes there, which is scary because they're tracking somebody's cell phone. They're like, we're going to take this guy out. And then it's a matter of where can we take them out with limited collateral damage, and with the aircraft flying from a good distance away. Sometimes they're hitting these individuals in residential areas. And so the questions become of collateral damage. This is open war, and this is a new type of warfare that we haven't seen before. This is very much going after individuals. It's not we're going after soldiers on the front line. It's like we're going deep into their territory and taking out commanders. We're taking out leaders. The United States still does not seem to be engaging in this type of warfare. And Israel's pioneering this. And I'm sure the United States and NATO is taking notes and is going to be getting a lot more information on how to replicate this on a wide scale during World War III, which we are in right now. Moving over to Kazakhstan, because of course Kazakhstan was top on your radar of things to talk about today. A Azerbaijan flight AXY 8243 was shot down by a Russian missile, Russian air defense system. It was headed to Grozny in Chechnya, where apparently there was a drone swarm and air defense systems were activated. A surface-to-air missile locked onto the airliner and detonated, spraying it with shrapnel, and it damaged the flight control systems as well as control systems, and they were unable to land the plane safely. There were 5 crew and 67 passengers aboard, but only 29 survivors, and many of those were very, very injured from that. A tragic instance of, once again, aircraft being targeted accidentally in a war zone. Unfortunately, this does happen, but Azerbaijani plane in Kazakhstan that was headed to Russia. Moving over to the Baltics, where a Russian oil tanker, the Eagle S, behaving erratically, and also its movements lining up with a severing of 2 communications cables and a major electrical cable connecting Estonia and Finland. Now, Estonia exports a lot of electricity to Finland. Finland, of course, being a green location, so they're, not wanting to burn fossil fuels and stuff like that. So Estonia burns the fossil fuels and then moves the electricity over to Finland, where the Finland people can drive around their electric cars and pretend like it's green. We see this a lot, like with California. I mean, other states burn fossil fuels and then send the electricity over to California, and then Californians are like, oh, we're green. We only have solar panels and pixie dust and stuff. And it's just like, no, you're just importing that power. And interestingly enough, we lose a lot of power as we move it from one location to the other. So the fact that California is importing that power from other states actually makes it even less efficient, rather than them just burning the fossil fuels in California and using that power directly. Interesting fact. Anyway, so this tanker sure looks like it was cutting those cables on the ocean floor. A lot of times what this seems to be is they take their anchors and then they strategically drop their anchors and drag them along the bottom and rip up those cables. And it appears that Eagle S apparently did that intentionally. Could be an accident, but from what we've seen, all these cables suddenly getting damaged seems to not be an accident. We just had the Chinese rip up several cables just a couple weeks ago, and nobody did anything about that. So Russia's probably like, oh, well, if nobody's going to do anything about that, why don't we do that? That sounds like fun. Russia has already stated that they do consider undersea communications cables to be fair game, especially after the attack on their pipeline. So they seem to say that these are fair game. If you're going to attack our underwater pipelines, we're going to attack your power cables. And this is super, super important because with the flows of natural gas not going to Europe starting January 1st, they are going to be super reliant upon electrical power cables coming across the Baltic Sea to from Norway. A lot of power generation in Norway, hydroelectric power generation in Norway. Also, Norway has a lot of natural gas production. There are some major natural gas pipelines going from Norway down to Northern Europe, and those pipelines, if they become sabotaged, are going to put Europe in a world of hurt. Let's just say it this way. If they cut those natural gas pipelines coming from Norway, Europe will run out of natural gas before the end of winter. And so that's something that we're watching here. Are these events leading up to a catastrophic incident on those pipelines? And if the power lines get cut as well, that's going to cause significant power issues across Northern Europe in places like France and Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands and such. They require the energy coming from Norway and the United States. So this is a situation where we are a lot of big things. We're still going to be talking about mortgage rates. The mortgage rates are popping up here. We see the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates, and yet by 0.25 just last week, but we're seeing mortgage rates not coming down, but going up. This is one very bad sign. The Federal Reserve cut interest rates, but yet interest rates are going up. That shows that the market is not listening to the Federal Reserve anymore. And that means that that market participants are unwilling to loan money to people at the rate that the Federal Reserve says that they should be loaning at. That's concerning. That means banks are afraid, and also that banks aren't able to borrow money at rates that the Federal Reserve seems to be saying that they can. Somebody's lying here. Something is broken underneath the surface. And when we see, this is mortgage rates, and that's bad, but it is, let's just say, a canary in the coal mine. The real issue here is when we start seeing Treasury interest rates, the rate at which people are loaning money to the federal government. Once we see them lower interest rates or keep interest rates the same, and we see those Treasury interest rates go up, that means we've entered the death spiral. Because as those interest rates go up, we're seeing that the Federal Reserve can't bring them down. And if they lose that power, there's only one way that those interest rates are going, and that is up, up, up. As interest rate goes up, people are going to realize that the federal government of the United States has to pay more and more on interest, which makes them less and less solvent, which means it's a higher risk. And higher risk, people are going to demand higher interest rates. And that's going to make the United States federal government less solvent than that, so higher risk. And you see this doom spiral happen. And this is how it's called a Minsky moment, where you get to this point where it starts feeding off of itself. People view you as less solvent. They charge higher interest rates, which makes you even less solvent, which charges even higher interest rates. And that's happening in the mortgage market right now. So it's not happening to the federal government. It's happening right now to individual home buyers, homeowners. They want to borrow money to buy a house, and the banks are like, you're too high a risk, which is going to make higher interest rates, which means that the people trying to buy houses are a higher risk because they have to pay higher interest rates, which is kind of another doom spiral. All right, let's talk about China. Chinese white emperor has taken to the skies. This is their 6th generation fighter, which is, it's a dumb thing in the first place. 4th generation, 5th generation, 6th generation. China's out there saying, ooh, we got this new fancy fighter jet. We did get to take a little bit of a look at it, and we're starting to get an idea of kind of what it is. 6th generation, 5th generation, that's really just arbitrary. It's kind of a useful thing sometimes to talk about kind of the capabilities of fighters, but each country has its own specifications of what's what. And, you know, a 5th generation U.S. fighter jet is not the same as a 5th generation Chinese fighter jet. Sort of like, you know, well, anything American versus Chinese. The quality is not always the same. Let's just put it that way. But China is saying that they have a 6th generation fighter jet when the United States doesn't have one. Now, or at least the United States doesn't claim to have one. The United States could have one, but the United States is really bad at keeping secrets. So it probably would have leaked by now. The United States still hasn't decided what a 6th generation fighter jet is going to look like. And so it's interesting to see what China thinks a 6th generation fighter jet will look like. One, it's bigger. It's a lot bigger, has 3 engines, and this thing is designed, it's a space aircraft. And so it's designed to fly high up into space, probably engage satellites. This thing will probably be capable of shooting down satellites. In addition to that, it's supersonic, but it has potential capabilities that are more towards a line of hypersonics. They're applying their hypersonic missile technology to their fighter aircraft, and so that's a capability that they may be doing here. Stealth, of course, but I think what we're probably looking at here, reading between the lines, it looks like they're following the United States' command and control. The F-35 is a flying computer that's able to do radar tracking, identify targets, and it's not just a weapons platform, but rather it's almost like a radar command and control center. And it looks like that's kind of the direction the Chinese are going with their 6th generation. I don't know. Their 6th generation might be looking more and more like the United States 5th generation. But the thing that's most concerning here is the United States seems incapable of innovation. We got Boeing, we got Lockheed. These aerospace defense contractors seem to be all about taking a project and squeezing as much money out of it as possible, taking as long as necessary, far longer than necessary, always over budget, and always delivers a product that doesn't seem to work. Just like the United States space program can't seem to figure out how to make rockets anymore, that work and SpaceX rapidly innovating, it seems like China is becoming more like a SpaceX type people. They're willing to take risks. They're building something and testing it and innovating. They're learning from SpaceX, whereas the United States defense contractors and defense industry is not. They can't figure it out. And when you have someone who's rapidly learning, even though they're starting from further behind, China is attempting to close the gap and to surpass. And I believe, from what I can see, that China will accomplish that because they are trying to do so, whereas the United States is not doing a very good job. Our technological advancements and superiority is rapidly being eroded. Not only are the Chinese cranking out missiles and ships and fighter jets, but they are rapidly closing the gap in quality. We should be concerned because they are beating us at our own game. All right, friends, that's what we got for you today. A lot of big information, a lot of big updates. Crazy stuff. The world is catching fire out there, and we're going to keep an eye on it and keep you updated on things. Hopefully you have a great holiday weekend coming up here and week. Hopefully you get to spend some good time with your family. God bless you all. Keep on preparing and prepping, and we're going to get this through all this together. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of The Poplar Report, out.